Welcome in, everyone, to episode 76 of the Level Flight podcast. If you tuned in on Tuesday's episode, that was also 76, but that was in fact 75. So let's first of all take a moment. We've reached 75 episodes, milestone. And to the guy who said episode 76 on Tuesday, Connor, how are you doing tonight?
Doing great. Jets lost tonight, but yeah, really bad brain cramp there on episode 75. Like, that's a milestone. It's like if it was episode 100 and I said 101. Like, that's just bad. But yeah, now we're here for the real episode 76. So let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, you said it. Jets lost tonight. We are, if you're wondering, we are recording this. It is exactly 10 p.m. on a Wednesday night. Figured it'd be a good idea to wait because we didn't have any thoughts on Monday's game. But yeah, tonight was it. I'm pretty sure it took years off my life. So we'll get to that. But I want to start. I was going to say let's start on the vibe game that we had on Monday. The debuts of Tyler Toffoli and Colin Miller. Jets came out, shut the Caps out. One of the best all-around games I think we've seen from them in terms of all four lines going. All three defensive pairs were really good. Hellebuck with the shutout. I've got a few thoughts on the game overall, but Connor, what did you think of that one?
So obviously the focus in this game was on the new guys, Toffoli and Miller, coming into it, and I thought they both played great. Toffoli especially had a ton of chances, and Miller as well looked steady in the third pairing. He has a rocket of a shot from the point, didn't get to use it as much. Used it more tonight against Nashville. But yeah, a rough sorry, we're still on Monday. I'm thinking about tonight. Monday, Toffoli and Miller looked great. Connor Hellebuck shutout, big bounce back for him off of the Vancouver game where the Jets got shelled. And like you said, one of the best performances of the year where you could say all four lines were rolling. Cole Perfetti hit 2 posts, which would have been really nice to see him get one and get him going a little bit. Toffoli fit in great with Monahan and Iafallo. Scheifele, Connor, Ehlers was the top line. We know that line is dynamic. And then the third line was, as they always are, very consistent. So an all-around great effort. It felt like the Jets had the puck the whole game. And when you do that, you control the flow of play. Things are going to go well. And then it almost completely flipped in that regard tonight against Nashville in terms of puck possession. But Monday, a good bounce back after the Vancouver game especially. And just when you look at that in hindsight, after what we saw tonight, it's even more shocking that the inconsistencies and the flip-flopping. But I'll let you talk about Monday first before we get into tonight.
Monday for me was one of those games where I wouldn't say it's a victory lap, but it was me feeling as if once again there was that level of everyone was saying Ehlers on the top line, lets that line go. And it was the best they've looked, but that's also coincides with Ehlers being back on that line.
Yeah.
But then you get the trio of guys who have played with each other at one point or another with Iafallo, Monahan, and Toffoli. They looked great. I will say the Toffoli style of skating is something I have not been used to. I saw I can't remember what they said. Oh, it was like he was skating through molasses, but he's going to break out the puck better than you've ever seen. It's such an interesting style of skating that he gets exactly where he needs to be. What seems to be a big effort, but then he creates incredible chance. Like he absolutely, I'm pretty sure he sent Ovechkin to the locker room at one point with a move in the slot. Didn't end up resulting in a goal, but he absolutely ruined him. Like it was incredible. But no, it was a great overall night. 3 lines had goals. All of the lines were in all of their underlying stats above 50% in their differentials, and like a lot above in some cases. And it was one of those nights where you looked at it and you go, I really enjoyed this game. And there was nothing to not like.
It was Winnipeg Jets hockey. Exactly. It was Winnipeg Jets hockey on Monday. They shut the other team down. All 4 lines were rolling. The depth was there. That's what we've, become used to this season when they're rolling. And then, like we both said, it just completely flipped on this night, which is shocking. But Toffoli, I want to talk about the skating for a second. You bring up a great point. Like, his time in New Jersey, his time everywhere across the league, and even here, and what we will see, I think, for the next 20 or so games and into the playoffs, he's not a guy that's like classified as fast. Like, he's not a burner, but he can keep up with fast players and play off the rush. Like, he played with Jack Hughes and played well with Jack Hughes, who's a rush dominant player in the NHL. Nikolai Ehlers is another one of those players who can be dynamic off the rush, and Toffoli could play with a guy like that. I think, yes, he's not the fastest player in the world, but like you said, he gets to the spots he needs to be at. And in the offensive zone, he finds the soft ice. Goal scorers who can find the soft ice in the playoffs, especially, that's huge. And it's all about the players that he's on the line with being able to find him. And on Monday night, they found him. He had a ton of great chances. Tonight against Nashville, no one was really rolling, so you can't really say no one found him. Toffoli didn't play as well. But I was really impressed. Brand new team, hadn't even skated with anyone yet, and he looked great, especially like his first couple of shifts, he was generating chances. It was a pleasant surprise that he fit in that well right off the bat. And yeah, that's all the good before tonight. But yeah. And Connor Hellebuyck, good bounce back as well. Gotta bring
Yeah. And it just sucked that we had to go from a game that everyone enjoyed so much to this game against Nashville that it was just miserable.
Yeah.
Everything started going wrong before the game even started. News came out, like, I guess when Scheifele didn't come out for warm-ups, that Mark Scheifele was going to miss with an illness, which, as we know, the flu has been ravaging this team for several months at this point.
Yeah, like, feels like we've been hearing about it since Christmas. Honestly, it just feels that way. I know it's not that way, but it feels that way.
But it feels like almost every time you sort of get like a player update, it's like, oh, a couple of these guys are like game time decisions because they're under the weather. And
yeah,
it was hinted at this morning in morning skate. And yeah, like that was a horrible start to the night, and nothing got better after that. No. I thought honestly, like, the Jets were down 2-0 after the first.
Yeah.
I didn't actually hate their first period.
Neither did I. Yeah.
I thought they generated a decent amount. There was a few plays that I think they should have scored, didn't. And then the goals from Nashville happened largely in part to the fact that they were coming at the Jets very quickly, and the defensive group was letting them in behind. And I will say, probably the biggest issue tonight was that second pairing.
Dylan and Pionk struggled for sure. That was one of their. This was one of their low points of the season. Like, they were puck management. We've talked about it all year long. That's been an issue. Not necessarily with that pairing, but when the puck management is bad for that pairing, I feel like it's more detrimental to any other pairing. Like, if the puck management is bad for a Josh Morrissey pairing, it doesn't hurt the team as much. Dylan and Pionk, when they're playing defense a lot, it really hurts them. And yeah, it showed on this night. But like you said, I agree. I didn't mind the first period. I thought, yeah, they're down 2-0, but I saw things that were going well for them. Mason Appleton had a glorious chance, had his stick lifted, but that's a tap in if he's able to get that puck. And they were generating chances. Ehlers was cooking. Connor had a good chance, and we didn't see any more good chances for the Jets until late in the third period when they scored 2 garbage time goals. But the first period was good. Like, they were down 2-0, but it wasn't like they were getting dominated. And then after 40 minutes, they were still down 2-0, but they got absolutely dominated in the second period. Hockey's kind of weird that way in a sense, but through the first 40 minutes in total, they got dominated. And then the first 3 minutes of the third, they gave up 2 more goals, and it was ball game. But like you said, Mark Scheifele being out from the jump, this team is an entirely different team without Mark Scheifele. We saw it earlier in the year when they struggled to score goals when he wasn't in the lineup, and we saw it again tonight. There were like effort concerns, like I said, puck management concerns. This team looked tired tonight. Whether that was Nashville just outworked them, hottest team in the NHL, on an adrenaline high. Maybe that was the case. Maybe everyone is sick. Maybe the Scheifele absence deflated the room. I don't know what it was, but they looked like the second hardest working team on this night. And without Scheifele, you're not going to make up the offense.
Yeah. And, maybe the Jets need to be told that they can't go see U2 at Sphere and that will get them on this unbelievable run, because that's what happened to Nashville. They lost 9-2 to the Stars. They were gonna go to Vegas a couple days before their game against the Knights and go see U2 playing at that giant Sphere, and Andrew Burnett said, "Absolutely not. You guys have not earned the right to enjoy yourself." Since then, they have not lost in regulation.
11-0-2.
Like,
unreal.
It's just U2. Like,
that's it. Yeah.
When you don't see U2, you do better.
Exactly. No, but Nashville, like, they looked. I know, like, they're a team that goes underrated a lot of the time, and yeah, they're 11-0-2, but the Jets were favored coming into this game. Like that didn't matter that they were 10-0-2 coming into it, and they looked unreal. Like, this was the first viewing we've seen of Nashville in a long time, and they are a completely different team. They looked like peak Jets. Like, I'm not saying they're that good, but when the Jets were rolling in December, that's what Nashville looked like tonight. Every puck was contested. Players were back checking their their lives depended on it. And UC Saros came up with a few big saves, and that's how you win, right? Like, Nashville, they looked unbelievable. They were the hardest working team by far on this night, and it does them a lot of favors when you can force puck management issues through your forecheck, through back checking, things of that nature.
And I want to bring up to the fact that the only lines with any sort of positive underlying numbers were ones that had Nikolai Ehlers flanking them. And I say that because they weren't consistent throughout the night. It started Connor Nemestikov Ehlers. That one finished, I think, at 50% or above 50% in the expected goals battle. Then I noticed this late. I don't know if it was a bonus. I'm just going to try and see what I can do to get anything going. It was Connor Monahan Ehlers.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Right near the end there. I didn't see what happened to the rest of the forward group. All I know is that happened, and then while they were on the ice, for whatever, I have no idea why this ever happens. Neil Pionk getting elevated to play with Josh Morrissey.
I think they do that to, like, add, like, it's an offensive zone face-off, maybe after an icing, and they do that as like a push your chips into the middle, all offense kind of move.
I mean, you add a level of chaos, that's for sure.
You add a level of chaos. Yeah, that's the downside.
He is
to that,
chaos.
For sure. He is. Yeah. I mean,
Neil Pionk is the epitome of chaos, and I guess that helps offensively, but
and tonight was, like, no different. Like, that pairing was very chaotic. You can look at Nashville's third goal as a prime example of them being chaotic. Dylan goes to, like, catch a puck in his crease and bats it to Nyquist, and then they're both just standing there, who drops it to Forsberg, and it's like the easiest goal Forsberg's probably scored all year. It was unbelievable. But anyways, we're approaching 15 minutes here. We should probably take a break, and then when we come back, I want to ask you, Brian, the Jets are 3-8 against playoff teams in the calendar year 2024. I think we need to talk about that and whether or not that's, like, a concern. And obviously tonight, playoff team, Nashville, you didn't have Mark Scheifele, fine, but they got boat raced and they got outworked. So I want to talk about that after the break for sure.
Yeah, so that'll also be a good little segue into talking about the Jets' next two opponents.
Yes.
Because...
And then the road trip after that.
Exactly, yeah. So, yeah, there's a couple should-be gimmies coming up for the Jets. Should be. Yeah. But, we'll get into more of that after a quick word from DraftKings, and we'll be right back. We know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app with code THPN. New customers bet $5 on the NHL and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, licensee partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2024, all rights reserved. And welcome back to episode 76 of the Level Flight podcast. We, ended off before the break talking about the Jets' record against playoff and non-playoff opponents.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if it's like a super high concern level because there's been a lot of weird circumstances over the last while and guys have been out with injury and that sort of thing. But Connor, I have to ask, at what point does it become something that you're worried about going down the stretch here?
I think it's already something that I'm kind of worried about. It's not something that I'm sounding the alarms. This team can't win big games kind of thing. And it's not something that I am yet going to carry into the playoffs as an attachment to this team, saying well, they if they stumble against playoff teams, I should be specific, into the playoffs, that's a massive concern. But like you said, there's been flu, players have been injured. This night against Nashville didn't help their case, but Nashville's the hottest team in the league. Again, I'm not trying to make excuses for the Jets. They know they didn't play well. Rick Bowness didn't even talk to the players after the game. He said he'll deal with it tomorrow, and he let the players talk it out because clearly they weren't happy with how they played tonight. But their 3 wins, they beat Carolina in that miraculous comeback. That was one of them against a playoff team. They just recently lost to Vancouver big time, Dallas, tonight against Nashville. 3 Western Conference playoff teams that are playing well right now. And March and April is when you want to be playing well as a team going into the stretch run. And I don't know, we talked about their upcoming schedule. They've got Anaheim at home on Friday. Again, should be a gimme. And then on Sunday night, they've got Columbus, another should be gimme. Then, that Columbus game is the beginning of a 5-game road trip. After Columbus, they go New York Rangers, New Jersey Devils, New York Islanders, and Washington Capitals. So technically the only playoff team in that is the Rangers. And I guess the Islanders are right on the bubble, or they might be in the spot currently when we're recording this. But those 2 New York games, and New Jersey's a really good team as well, that has some goaltending issues. I don't know. And then they come home, and Edmonton and Vegas are their first 2 opponents when they come back home. So we're going to get a lot of tests here against playoff opponents and see how the Jets stack up. But you got to take the free squares when you can, especially when you're struggling against playoff teams. And Mark Scheifele misses a game due to illness. If Mark Scheifele misses Friday's game, they should still have no issue beating the Ducks. That should still be a free square. But yeah, I'm definitely, where are you at with this? Because I'm definitely at the point where I think I'm 6 out of 10 concerned. But if they keep sliding going into the playoffs, that'll definitely be something that I'm this team hasn't had a good record against playoff teams in the calendar year 2024. So where are you at with that?
I feel like my concern is more rooted in the fact that they've been kind of alternating good than mediocre teams.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, the biggest concern for me in those games against the good teams, honestly, it feels like their effort level isn't there.
And they're getting rolled. Dallas, Vancouver, and tonight, close. They got rolled. Yeah, it wasn't close. Yeah.
So I feel like my concern is largely rooted in the fact that there's no consistency in their effort. I wouldn't care about this game if they lose to Nashville, but they put up a fight. If it's 4-2, but those goals aren't scored in the last 4 minutes of the game, maybe it's a little bit more contested. But my whole thing is how are you going to fare in the playoffs if you can't put together 2-3 consistent games in a row against good teams? And as you said, we're going to be tested heavily over the next month.
Yeah.
And you're going to find out exactly what this team is going into the playoffs based on how those games go. Because if they still can't manage to keep up with certain teams, I worry about what that first round is going to look like.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And to further that point, what I'd like to see is a stretch of dominant 5-on-5 games. Like, feels like they haven't had a stretch of those in a long time. Maybe December is the last time. Maybe they had a decent 3 or 4 game stretch since then. It's escaping me right now. I know they won 8 of 9 at one point. It's in the calendar year 2024, but we even said during that time, like, the process wasn't right. They were winning games they shouldn't have. They were getting outplayed at 5-on-5. Like, it just didn't feel right. And now even when they're winning, it's followed up. Like, they're winning and it's the right way. And it's Winnipeg Jets hockey. And you shut out the Kraken on the road and you only give up 17 shots against. Like, that is impressive. And then Washington comes to town and you completely smother them. You have the puck like the whole game. Like, that's Winnipeg Jets hockey. And then you follow both of those games up by getting absolutely dominated by better teams. Like, it's the consistency's not there. Rick Bowness was asked about it. He said he didn't want to share why he thought that was happening, but it's clearly something that we're going to have to watch over the next 12 months. Cause like you said, they're going to get tested. This could be a problem going into the playoffs, and they haven't put together a stretch of good 5-on-5 games like they did the first 3 months of the season in a long time. So it's concerning. I said this in our group chat during the game. I don't know if tonight is the game that, like, completely makes me panic and puts me over the edge on that thought, because without Mark Scheifele playing against Nashville, like, in hindsight, the Jets shouldn't have really been favored in this game. Like, yes, they had played great on Monday, but it's like Nashville's really hot. Like, it should have been closer, maybe the line. But look, like, I don't know if this is the game to put me over the edge on that, because Mark Scheifele's gone, and we know what this team looks like without Mark Scheifele, and it's not good, and it's never been good in the decade he's been here. So tonight was rough. That was a long way of saying tonight was rough.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna go too far into this because I feel like we talk about it in most episodes. I feel like the consistent 5-on-5 play relies on whether or not Rick Bowness understands the fact that that can't happen unless Nikolai Ehlers is playing with Connor and Scheifele.
Yeah.
Because
or Scheifele and Velarde when Velarde's healthy.
At this point, it just feels as if it's not going to happen again. So I'm just assuming it'll be Scheifele, Connor, someone. And if that someone is not Nikolai Ehlers, the rest of the forward core suffers for it. If you're having a positive game in your differentials on your top line, the rest of that has a trickle-down effect. It's harder to match up against. So they start putting more guys over the boards to try and fix that. But then you have holes, the rest of it. If your top line is getting absolutely shelled, then suddenly your second, third, and fourth lines have to make up the offense, and that's not their job. And the Toffoli edition's nice and all, but him alone shouldn't. He can't be the one who makes up all the offense when Scheifele and Connor are getting absolutely buried. So having Ehlers on that top line takes the play driving, responsibility, at least in part, off of Kyle Connor, who can't play drive to save his life. Giving it that responsibility to Ehlers, that line is night and day better. Has to be that to go forward with that consistent effort.
I 100% agree. And I saw this thought on Twitter, and I forget who said it, but it's like the Jets are so deep, and we recognize that. And the game Monday against Washington was a perfect example of that. Like, the fourth line played great. Baron Nemestikov, Perfetti. Rick Bowness was like, he said after the game, I wanted to get Perfetti up in the top 6, but the fourth line was doing as good as he would have done in the top 6. So why change it, basically, right? And it's like, this team is so deep, but when they don't deploy the players the right way in the top 6, then suddenly they're a deep team that lacks top end talent. So, like, the depth can make up for it, but most nights, like, it's this common saying, your best players need to be your best players. And if this team relies heavily on deployment, we've seen that with our own eyes this season. Tonight was no different with Scheifele out. Like, that just screwed kind of everything up, because he's your number one center play driver, offensive key cog, if you want to say that. But it just feels like when they're not deployed right, they're not the same team. And yes, the depth can make up for it on some nights, and the Lowry line can physically dominate teams and score 2 or 3 goals on occasionally, right? But it just feels like the top lines need to be rolling for this team to look like the December version of itself. And Monday was a good example of that, because not only was the top line rolling, but everyone was rolling. And there are bad teams where that should happen, but we haven't seen one of those games against a playoff team in a long time. Like, if they go into New York against the Rangers on Tuesday next week, top line's Connor Scheifele-Ehlers, and all 4 lines are rolling, and they beat the Rangers like 4-1, then it just kind of proves everything I said, that like this team, when deployed properly, can be the best team in the West. Like, they can represent the West in the finals if things click correctly here. But when they're not deployed correctly, they could be a first round exit. Like, that's the way things are in this league on most nights, if I'm being honest. And tonight was no different, because, I mean, Scheifele is not the coach's fault. But at the end of the day, like, you're missing your top guy. You're not deployed correctly because of an injury. It's not your fault again, but you get killed by the hottest team in the NHL on home ice. So that's just kind of we saw a live example of it tonight, and we've seen live examples of it all year. And it's something that needs to correct itself going into the playoffs. And we'll see the tests coming up here. We'll see, because they got some good teams on the schedule for sure.
Yeah. And we're going to have a busy rest of the month talking about all this. And, at some point or another, Velarde is going to come back. That's going to be a whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so next up, we got the Ducks. Then on Sunday, the Blue Jackets. Mm-hmm. So we'll be talking more about those 2 games later on. The next time, when you're hearing this on Thursday, the next time you'll hear from us is on our weekly LFP Live, Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Central. I specify Central because I know we have a few people from all over the place. So we'll be talking about that Ducks game, what happened. Hopefully we're talking about a win, because if we're not, boy, that would be something. But, yeah, and then we'll roll right into sort of it's almost going to be like a pregame show, a postgame and a pregame, because that night they'll be playing against the Jackets, which, once again, hopefully we'll be talking about a win.
Square.
Yeah. But no, so, be ready for that. As always, remember to go subscribe to our YouTube. Go click that little bell. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're not subscribed, first of all, why not? But, I'll let you off the hook. You go click the subscribe button right now. Click the little bell so you get the notification when we upload and when we go live, so you don't miss it again. We had a massive audience last week on LFP Live. That was fantastic.
Great audience. It was.
We'd love to have more of you in here, especially on YouTube, and, really getting involved with us. We're really active with the chat, and we always have a question and answer period at the end there. So keep an eye out for that every Sunday morning. We'll be spreading it all over the place. So you'll be able to click some link to lead yourself to us. So, but until then, Jets just lost to Nashville. Happy Thursday morning. The vibes are low. We will be talking to you on Sunday morning. From myself and from Connor, thanks again to all of you for listening to us, and we will see you later this week.